Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker and you're watching Screenwipe, a programme all about television. This week, children's television. Now, unless, like me, you spent your entire childhood trapped in a cupboard while an insane great-aunt held the door shut and kept you alive by feeding communion wafers through the crack in the bottom, chances are your first experience of television came in the form of kiddie-wink programming. Since children's brains are essentially an undeveloped primordial paste, these early telly memories probably etch themselves on your developing mind as indelibly as knobs and heart signs carved on an old-school desk. And not always in a good way, because sometimes children's telly can be inadvertently frightening. For instance, back when I was a scarcely sentient skin blob, I used to love the programme Jigsaw, a quirky and imaginative puzzle-based show full of light-hearted gags and sketches and madcap inventor Wilf Lunn. But my enjoyment was tempered somewhat by the regular intrusions of Mr. Nosy Bonk. Mr. Nosy Bonk was a sort of leering death-masked figure who was supposed to be gently amusing but wound up haunting my dreams because he struck me as precisely the sort of figure who'd sneak into a stranger's bedroom in the dead of night and knife you, 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 and knife you. Fortunately, the presenters themselves are rarely quite so frightening. Back in monochrome AD, kids presenters were rather stiff and patrician, like a nurse on the cusp of examining you with surprisingly cold hands. These matronly sorts were often paired with a character of some kind, as seen here via the charming antics of Annette Mills and the fondly remembered Muffin the Mule, and the less fondly airbrushed from history Wally the Gog.
I'm going back to America.
Either that or they were out-and-out slapstick buffoons. Take the apparently lovable, albeit f***ing annoying Mr. Pastry, seen here in more innocent animal-hating times, palling about with some chained-up muzzled bears and giving a lit cigar to a monkey. That monkey's gonna die, oh, Mr. Pastry. Later, as society loosened up, the presenters loosened up too. Although they were still essentially parental, it's just that now there was something vaguely mucky about them. At some point in the 80s, that all changed. Kids presenters transformed into something less parental and more sort of equal. Today, they're not your mum and dad at all. They're more like preppy, half-cool older brothers and sisters. Of course, everyone has a favourite presenter or two from their childhood. I grew up in the 70s or 80s, which was a golden age for the TV presenting polymath. People like cuddly Richard Hammond lookalike Roy Castle, who sang, danced and pratfalled his way through series after series of record breakers in a desperate bid to make dry statistics seem entertaining.
It's 105 centimetres high and it's 131 centimetres long. 10 metres of yarn were used to stitch the world's largest boot, a boot that weighs 31.7 kilograms. How would you like this to come down your beanstalk?
Although it didn't help that for many years his co-host was right-wing political activist and walking fact-shitter Norris McWhirter, a man with all the easy-going charisma of an RS-232 interface cable floating in a bowl of cold piss.
What tree has grown the longest roots and how long were those roots?
What tree has grown the longest roots? Now, I know that the tree with the longest roots ever recorded is in South Africa.
Yeah, I've got a question, Norris. How many units of my soul have been deleted since you started speaking? One of my heroes was Brian Cant, who brought an eccentric dignity to everything he did, even when he had to crawl around on all fours with toys on his back like a dog. Then there was the absolutely brilliant Derek Griffith, seen here in a jumper that seems to be growing into his head. He was a master of creating simple joy out of absolutely nothing.
4 small ducks went for a walk one day, over the hills and far away. Mother duck said, quack, 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 and only 3 small ducks came back.
Very few presenters are that versatile with their hands, apart obviously from who started his career tossing off around the back of the BBC canteen, as I'm sure our lawyer will agree. Of course, many of today's top TV faces started out as children's presenters. Chris Tarrant, Noel Edmonds, Dennis Nilsson, Philip Schofield, Cat Deeley, Dennis Nilsson, Anton Deck, Fern Cotton and Dennis Nilsson all started out on children's telly, apart from Dennis Nilsson. But it's not always easy to make the leap from playtime to prime time. For instance, perhaps my favourite kids presenter ever was Johnny Ball, the eager puppy of science.
Hello!
He'll always be fondly remembered for his quirky educational shows and bright-eyed enthusiasm. And not at all for the programme Johnny Ball Games, which none of you have ever heard of for reasons that will become apparent now.
If you got a high IQ, if you can add 2 and 2, either way the show's for you. Johnny Ball Games. If you're 5 and riding free, if you're half an hour free, join in.
Johnny Ball Games was a bizarre one-off Christmas family game show vehicle for Johnny Ball. A blend of noisy, fast-paced slapstick studio games and achingly slow lateral thinking puzzles, it's possibly the most ill-advised format in TV history. Along the way, Johnny was aided by a live studio band and a quartet of slightly over-eager assistants. Their duties consisted of standing around in the background, awkwardly pretending to help the families, enthusiastically keeping the scores,
Napier's 4, Russell's 6, Williams 2.
and at one point performing an excruciating song and dance number with Johnny Ball.
Can't stop, can't stop, can't stop, can't stop, can't stop, can't stop, can't stop dancing. Can't stop, can't stop, can't stop, can't stop, can't stop, can't stop, can't stop dancing. Can't stop dancing.
A stunning 99% of the show is taken up with awkward pauses, either when Johnny joins the families for a stilted bit of chit-chat,
I'm going to talk and get to know one of those families right away. The Napiers. How would you take it first? You're the Napiers. Dennis, Andrew, James, and Henrietta. And what do people call you?
They call me Hen, Hetty, Henry, Henrietta.
You've got more names than anyway. But really, Henry, do people... Hello, Henry, from the shops today. How unusual.
or when they try and answer his mind-mangling lateral questions.
What will be the day before yesterday, tomorrow?
Friday.
Friday's absolutely correct. 2 points.
Anyway, if it's difficult for even a brilliant kids presenter like Mr. Ball to front adult shows, could I, as an awkward and off-putting adult presenter, make the leap the other way? To find out, I toodled along to the studios of Toonatic, ITV's early morning weekend festival of tomfoolery and animation, to see how I'd fit in. First, regular presenters Jamie and Anna gave me some advice. And what was the other thing? Oh, and don't show my bum to the audience.
Don't show your bum and don't swear.
And don't swear. And then I was thrown in at the deep end to try it out. My duties consisted of doing a few cheery links.
Good morning, good morning, good morning!
Welcome back again up top to your Toonatic, the place to be till 9:25 a.m. I'm Charlie, this is my right-hand man, Jamie.
Absolute mundo.
Then I had to run a quiz. Bring on the challenge chef! Actually, I wasn't too good at getting the rules right for the quiz, but I think I ploughed through without traumatising the children too much.
Say hello to Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
Hello.
Hi, Charlie.
Hello. OK, there are 60 seconds on the clock, but first I have to ask, do any of you want to play your jokers? Although, do bear in mind that any points you pick up, any minus points you pick up will be subtracted from your score, as well as the ones that I didn't explain. You understand? And then they gave me a little cameo, which they'd tailored closely to my persona.
Well,
isn't it obvious I'm Angry News Guy?
It's Angry News Guy, everybody.
And which ended in an inevitable custard pie in the face.
Bring on the pies! Here we go. You're Angry News Guy. Hey, Charlie, you're a disgrace. You're gonna win the morning with pie in your face. You better get ready, because the poison and here it comes. The two-daddy pie!
And number 4. Well
Oh,
done.
tell you what a morning. Have you all enjoyed that?
So what did I learn? Well, not much really, except that presenting for kids is more difficult than presenting for adults because you've got an extra set of rules ticking away in your head the whole time, so it's trickier than it looks. And speaking of kids presenters, here's a veteran, Kirsten O'Brien, telling you about a duo she loves and you don't.
I like the Chuckle Brothers because I think there aren't that many people doing what they do anymore. It's real end of the pier, completely innocuous, fun, innocent stuff, and so much these days has to have an edge or has to be ticking some sort of box, and this is just a laugh.
How do I get back down?
No, it's no good. I can't hear a thing you're saying. I said, how do I get back down?
I just think the way they look is a little... It's not your standard kids' telly fodder, because in theory you should have young, smiley, bright people, and these two look like people that have been on remand in 1989 or something with their weird hair and dodgy tashes, and they've never aged as well. That's because they never look young. They've always looked that old. They turn up, whether they are carpet fitters or pizza delivery boys. It's going to go wrong, and they end up invariably was covered in something or nude. They went caravanning together, and the caravan was just like a sort of seesaw effect. And the thing about quite a lot of their stuff is it runs for longer than you think it should, the gag. But you end up with, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh no, he's still going to do it. And it's sort of that, they just sort of really drag out the visual gags. The catchphrases are, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh dear.
And B is, to me, to you. To me, to you.
To you. No, to you.
No, to you.
To me, to you. What do you think you're doing?
Which then, amazingly, and I don't know whether this has ever happened before, where a catchphrase gets turned into a game show. It gets shoehorned into becoming an entire 25-minute game show.
Welcome back to Chuckle Island and another game of To Me, to You.
I think if two mullety pensioners turned up now with, well, we're going to pedal a car like the Flintstones and he's going to fall over and I'm going to have all these wacky plans, I don't think that would get commissioned at all. And I think it'll be a sad day when they are off our screens. It'll be sort of, well, it will be end of an era.
One thing you can safely say about children's TV is that it's always been weird. As an infant, you simply take this warped reality for granted, of course, because a lack of life experience combined with regulation kiddywink stupidity means you don't realise that, say, the moon doesn't really have bin lids all over it and isn't inhabited by pink and purple blobs. It's only later when you reach your early 20s and think you're all sophisticated that you suddenly decide, hey, the people who made these shows must have been out of it, yeah? I mean, it's so f***ing trippy, they must have been taking something. All of which is A, an insult to the imagination of the creators, and B, patent bullshit, because if the creators had been taking acid, these shows wouldn't have been made at all. I mean, have you seen the painstaking precision required to create stop-motion animation?
Our film was going to last 16 seconds, which meant taking 400 shots.
Compare that to the hand-eye coordination of the average caner, why don't you? Get someone on acid to make a stop-motion animation, and you'll be lucky if they don't try to climb inside the face of the nearest plasticine model and drive it through a lilac Stargate, the wasters. Anyway, there is one link between kids' TV and drugs, and that's the TV itself, which parents can use like a drug, either a sedative to keep the kids quiet, or a stimulant to make them run around and wear themselves out. And just as different drugs have different effects, so do different shows. Take In the Night Garden, the recent offering from the team that brought you Teletubbies. Set in the dreamy hinterland between the waking world and sleepy by time, it's specifically designed to relax the little idiots, or at least bamboozle them into silence. The action takes place in the night garden of the title, a dingly dell full of cutesy creatures who giggle hither and thither with the blithe insouciance of a being that's never experienced the withering disappointments of real life. In fact, their only real problem seems to be an outbreak of incurable flatulence, which has spread through the entire wood like, well, like a big billowing guff cloud.
One, two, three, four.
Yeah, I'd open the window, get some fresh air in there before your lungs turn brown. They even power their public transport system with methane. In fact, there's so much hot air blasting through their butty bots, it must leave their ring pieces burning like a hot coin, or a puncture wound, or a brass trumpet mouthpiece that's been left in front of a coal fire for the past 200 hours. What I'm saying is, their bumholes must hurt. Anyway, parched sphincters aside, the show is a bit like a greatest hits remix of every children's TV show ever made. There's echoes of Bagpuss here, shades of Trumpton there, sprinklings of Flump, Magic Roundabout, Rosie and Jim, Teletubbies. Basically, if there was an afterlife for kids' TV characters, it'd look like this. But sadly there isn't, because as everyone knows, all kids' TV characters are actually fated to roast for eternity in the lowest pits of hell. Sorry kids, but it's the truth.